And we've got to turn to one stock in particular. That is Bayer, the German company, known as Bayer sometimes in the U.S. It's taken a big hit today. The company was dealt its second major defeat in litigation over claims that its Roundup weed killer causes cancer. I want to talk about this with the panel because this has been sort of a long time coming, right? This happened because Bayer bought Monsanto. It went through all these kind of regulatory hurdles to get the deal done. And now it seems like maybe that deal wasn't the best idea. Is this a stock that you look at?
Yeah, it's something that we keep an eye on. Just, Monsanto is, previously was a domestic company. Our firm really focuses on buying just domestic stocks, but we have to have a good idea of just what's going on outside the U.S. as far as, antitrust is concerned. And this was something that we were happy to see come out of our screens because Monsanto hadn't been a company that we really felt comfortable owning for a lot of reasons. Mainly just related to the risks of the business and something like this occurring. And, I think there's probably more to come. And this is going to be an area of, focus as a global economy become more cognizant of just some of the chemicals that are being used, not just in this particular company, but across the board.
And you look at the stock reaction today, down 10%, on track for its worst day since 2003, and I think this is a good lesson for companies who maybe are facing similar issues, that if this happens and you lose in these court cases, you're going to have a similar stock reaction and you're going to have a similar sort of exodus from the analyst community, because we're seeing analysts re-rate the stock as we speak. A lot of analysts, Wall Street shops coming out and cutting their price targets. It also reminds me of the J&J situation we saw in mid-December when there were many media reports saying that they knew of asbestos in their baby powder for decades. And by the way, the stock still hasn't recovered from those media reports 3 months later. Well,
and in the J&J case, they would say to you there hasn't been asbestos in their product for decades. It's naturally occurring when they used to mine that stuff. But getting back to Bayer, do they share with us the amount of agriculture that depends on Roundup and what that might do? Let's say you have to pull this product off the market. What happens to crop yields and what happens to commodities in the ag sector if that's what we might be looking at? Because these huge awards that we're seeing, I think it was $289 million in the last case, they can't go forward with that kind of award and that kind of exposure.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, you talk about farmers being already under pressure from some of the tariffs and some of the concerns related to trade in China and just consumption of soybeans. But to your point, what other competitors are out there besides Bayer, Monsanto? These companies have been long profiting from just making crop yields more efficient. And is this another area that's going to really impact the U.S. farmers? Well,
and it's not just about Roundup, right? There's a whole Roundup ecosystem because they have Roundup-resistant crops as well. They sell seeds that work with the Roundup. So, it's really significant for the company if they have to pivot.
It might be a good topic for us to bring up with some of our ag guests, some of the farmers we bring on. But we're going to thank you for that discussion.